段故事建筑一座城堡。All of our creditors came around, but we couldn't pay them all, so they just robbed us.
Today I'm going to teach you about generosity. And the way you do that is by taking my money from me? How will you get the money to pay off your house? How are you ever gonna win your wife back?
I want to protect those I hold dear. I want to help the folks here, but I can do nothing.
This house doesn't belong to you. If you want to live here, pay up. If you won't pay, then get lost and don't come back. I don't need a useless son like you.
用一段故事建筑一座城堡，回放进去后就不再打扰。
We take it on at the right time.
Honorable Musalia Mudavadi.
The Honorable Mutahi Kagwe.
Chief Justice Martha Karambuko.
This is KBC, the voice of Kenya.
Asking the right questions.
I don't know how it made you feel as speaker who is presiding over a house where members can be compromised with 10,000 shillings.
We keep our guests comfortable. A mission to ensure our audience gets a complete story.
For a few hours or so, I thought this is it. My end has come.
If really we want an end of this pandemic, we must fight.
Our goal, to tell it as it is for the benefit of our viewer.
And I'm sure we will have good discussions.
All right.
That will make probably your viewers understand KDF better.
With 21 radio outlets.
During a live interview on KBC TV, Chief of Defense Forces General Robert Kibosha.
Jaji mkuu kwa mara ya kwanza katika mahojiano yake ya kipekee na runinga ya KBC Channel 1.
And 2 TV stations covering over 90% of the entire country. The message always gets home. KBC, the home of on-air TV interviews.
Log on to the KBC website at www.kbc.co.ke to get the latest breaking news, entertainment, sports, politics, lifestyle or business trends from Kenya and around the world. Never miss new episodes from your favorite TV shows, reruns and movies. Just stream online or watch live on your YouTube channel at KBC Channel 1 TV shows. For the day's biggest stories, trustworthy news and family entertainment, log on to KBC Channel 1. Watch what you want anytime, anywhere.
Una sombra de traición.
You removed Dr. Salvatierra's body from the house, and for some reason, Mr. Del Rio suspects that you had something to do with the fire.
I couldn't care less about what that idiot told you. My conscience is not going to bother me at all.
Those are not valid reasons for him to have forced me to marry a man like that, mother, for crying out loud. I want to know why he hated Leonardo so much.
Idea, Carla. Now you listen well. Word of this might get around and rumors are going to spread. If that happens, the one's getting a divorce will be you and me. You better take me seriously.
Just talk to him. Be honest once and because that would be pointless, mother. You know that would be pointless. We both know what he is going to do. The man is not going to stop until he takes them from me. I will not.
Lying heart. Fue sembrando el veneno y la ambición. Entre dos turns away. The sun sends the day. Creeping into the gloom.
I promise to love you like you. If this is love, my dear, welcome to my world. And let us share, baby.
I got you, baby. I got you, baby.
Oh, my friend, my friend, the ones that true and not sell out. That one up for my friend, when not about for the money alone. This that one. 用一段故事建筑一座城堡。All of our creditors came around, but we couldn't pay them all, so they just robbed us.
Today I'm going to teach you about generosity. And the way you do that is by taking my money from me? How will you get the money to pay off your house? How are you ever gonna win your wife back?
I want to protect those I hold dear. I want to help the folks here, but I can do nothing.
This house doesn't belong to you. If you want to live here, pay up. If you won't pay, then get lost, don't come back. I don't need a useless son like you.
用一段故事建筑一座城堡，回忆放进去后就不再打扰。
A very good morning to you. My name is Daniel Wahome and welcome to the first edition of Sports Check in the year 2022. It is a year when we've got a lot to talk about sporting wise. The Africa Cup of Nations, that's the first major event that we've had this year. And also we shall be taking a look at youth athletics. We shall be taking a look at Kenya hosting a major cross-country event, a world cross-country tour gold event in Lobo, that is in Eldoret, just outside of Eldoret. We also have got the World Championships, we have got the FIFA World Cup, and the Africa Youth Games, amongst other things to look out for. Not forgetting even the Commonwealth Games. The rugby team are preparing to go to Spain for the World Rugby 7 Series. The women's cricket team is in Malaysia. So a lot of sport to talk about. But also on the news outlook, I know there is a lot of conversation about what Senator Mithika Linturi said over the weekend. And his speech means that he was arrested. He's had to do statements, and people from across the country and also across the political divide are giving their statements about his utterances on Saturday. So those are some of the stories that we shall be looking at as we go through our news program today. 3 conversations today on Sports Check. The first one, we're going to be speaking to somebody. If you've ever been at any major, say at the national championships at Kasarani or the national trials, then you probably have seen her trackside moving around her business, and not many people would, if you don't, you may notice her, but forget about her. She's not out there. But at the end of last year, her face became public at once. Pauline Murumba, the 2021 Confederation of African Athletics Official of the Year. She is with us in studio. We shall be having that conversation with her. And the National Olympic Committee of Kenya, they held the elections last year and they come up with an 8-point plan as to how to manage the sport over the next 2 years, plus enough combined events that are going to be taking place. And also a conversation around football, the FKF Premier League, the Africa Cup of Nations, and also the FA Cup. As Kenyans, we own clubs in the United Kingdom, so I know a lot of banter is going on even as all other sports continue. Our sign language interpreter within this hour is going to be Anne Wangeshi, and she's going to be joining us soon. You shall see her face at the bottom right of your screen. Straight to our first conversation. And as the year was coming to a close, and that's 2021, just a week after Christmas, what a better way to have a belated Christmas gift than being named an official of the year. And the moment I saw that communication sometime late in the evening, I had to confirm till I saw that document that was in French, and the conversation started. Pauline Murumba was named the African Official of the Year. And Pauline, welcome to KBC Channel 1.
Thank you very much.
And congratulations. I think this is the third or fourth time I'm asking this. Your reaction to, having been named the African Technical Official of the Year by the Confederation of African Athletics.
I was very excited because it was something I did not expect, and it came at a time I did not expect, and it's good to be recognized for the work you've been doing over the years. So I was just so excited, and I really thanked God for that.
So let's just start with your journey, how you got into becoming a technical official in athletics.
Mm-hmm. My story begins very far, and today I would like to go back to NYS because I was among the last lot which did NYS, pre-university NYS. Out of that, I realized...
I have a couple of colleagues who were in that class.
Really?
We're in that cohort.
Really? Yes, I was in that cohort, the last NYS group. Out of NYS, when I went to campus, I found out that you could actually do physical education as a subject, and it excited me. So I did physical education at Kenyatta University, completed my course, was posted to a teachers college called Tambach Teachers College back in 1993. And it is there that we were teaching different subjects. We were teaching hockey, we would teach basketball, but also coach. And among the other fields I was teaching was track and field athletics. So I met Brother Colm there, and I really liked his passion for sport. I really liked his passion for athletics.
He used to commute from Iten, get across the valley down to Tambach.
By that time, he had actually retired from St. Patrick's, and he was teaching at the college. So we were colleagues.
Okay.
Yes, so we interacted very closely, and we would do a lot of work together in specifically athletics. Yeah, so we would be at Camarine Showground, training the team for the college, and so on. Then after some time, I left Tambach and came to Kenya Science Teachers College, 1997. I was very new. A few weeks into my time in Kenya Science, there was a course that was being done by IAAF, and it was a level 1 course. And for us as the Kenya Science staff, we were not part of it. But having interacted with Brother Colm and having done another course before, I felt this is something that can add value to my life. So I asked our HOD, who was Honorable Kiraitu Murungi's wife, she's called Priscilla. I asked her if she could ask for us to be allowed to enter or to join the training. And by the grace of God, Mr. Kinywa, who was also the treasurer of AK at that time, allowed us. He said, as many of you as can go, fine, we have been allowed. So 3 of us went, and from that, I continued. The other 2 officiated, but after some time, they went into other things. 4 years later, 2001, I was invited to do level 2. Mr. Okeo called me for a level 2 course. Interestingly, I went for that course when I was 37 weeks pregnant.
so that was just about the time you're about to have a child.
Yes. And there was a lot of teasing that my baby would be called TOEX, because the course is normally called TOEX level 2. But
TOEX,
I passed.
what does it mean in full?
Technical Officiating Education and Certification System. That is how IAAF grades their, or now World Athletics. That's what they call their certification systems for technical officiating and for coaching. So they have another name for the coaching one, but this is for technical officiating. So I did level 1, 201. I passed by the grace of God. And since then, 202, I was nominated into the panel, African panel of officiating. And it's not that it's a guarantee you stay there. People keep falling out and falling back because we keep doing refresher courses and exams. So that exam will determine whether you continue being in the panel or you are dropped out, and so on. So I've been in that panel since that time. We've done very many courses, very many refresher seminars, done so many exams, and I'm here.
Who were your instructors at that point?
201, we had John Velzian. 1997 also, John Velzian. 201, John Velzian. But there was also George Salcedo from Portugal.
Now, when it comes to these courses that everyone does, maybe you could just brief us, ideally from athletics, what you've got the field events and you've got the track events.
Yes.
Let's start with the stadium one. What are the things that you are taught to technical officials for each of these sets of events?
I will start with the track events. In track events, I would basically say we have sub-departments in track events. There is no one person who can actually do an athletics competition competitively, because we have so many departments. We have those who do the start, we have the umpires who man the race as it's going on, we have those who will deal with the finish, the positioning of the athletes when they finish, we have the timekeeping, we have lap scoring, we have got those who will do the setups. So we have all these teams that must participate in making the event successful. In field events, we also have the setup before, and then we have the running of the event by the officials, and then what happens after the finish now, sending them to the podium for the event. But this can only be successful if the call room does their work, where they are received, they are prepared, and then they are released to the field.
Now, we would like Pauline to take us through the day, through what happens when you're doing an athletics event, starting with what they call the call room to, and what happens at that point to when somebody gets onto the podium. You can take us through all those processes, because I know there are several at each point.
Yes. Call room 2. Athletes have been called. We already have what we call the start list. We usually work with what we call a start list. This is the list of all the participants who are in a particular event. And we have different levels, of course. We'll have the qualifying round, we'll have the semi-finals, we have the finals, and there are rules that go with the timing within which the athlete should come. Once they're in call room 2, the next thing is inspection. What are they coming to the field with, and what is allowed, what is not allowed. So the work of the call room is to ensure that the athletes comply with the rules in terms of their dressing, their shoes, and then the gadgets they are allowed or not allowed to have in the field, and they are just ready for the competition.
Actually, let me just interrupt you.
Yes.
Gadget, let's first of all start with the dressing. What's an athlete allowed to take into the stadium?
The athlete will be allowed to go with the named uniform for their team.
Yes.
What they have declared. If they say they'll be in green, they should be in green. And there are particular types of vests that are required. Like you cannot wear a t-shirt and go and run. There are specific things towards that. And then they must also have a running number on them to show that they are either the name, if it is a high level, or a number if it is our lower level. Okay. So an athlete can run like 0:23, 0:33, so for identification. Then another thing, what is not allowed? Phones are not allowed. Anything that can give them an added advantage against someone else. So like communicating with a coach through a phone is not allowed. So all those communication gadgets, apart from a phone, any other thing that can enhance communication that is private.
Okay. So that is entering the stadium.
Yes.
Let me just jump ahead, because at times when I look at, say, the pole vault, the high jump, and the throws, times you see athletes talking to the coaches. That's allowed.
Yeah, that is allowed. But the coaches actually have their own area up there where they are allowed. They can come and look over the athletes, but they are not allowed in the stadium. So the athlete will come, talk to them, go back. Yes.
So now the athletes are now ready to get in the stadium.
Yes.
Now the regulations around the stadium, how then do you go around this?
Okay.
I'll pick, for example, the 100 meters.
100 meters. The athletes have come from the call room. They are handed over to the start team. So the start team will use the same start list to counter check. Do we have everyone? Is there anyone who is not supposed to be here who is here? Then once they are ready, they are now placed on the lanes according to the lane allocation that has been done before. Then they run in their lanes to the finish, and at the finish area, the finishing officials will be ready for them, and they will now give them their positions. Yeah.
So here is a case of this start list, and this is where the confirmation has got to be done.
Yes.
At times even before the race starts. What is checked against an athlete's requirement for being in that start list?
Okay. Start list has a long history because it begins with entries. Once a competition is declared, the teams are supposed to submit the names of their participants. So they are entered into the system, and based on that now, all the things that are required, like age, if it is world under 18 or if it is world under 20, they must meet the age requirement. How? Passport, all the documents that are required to verify age, mainly the passport if it's an international event, or the ID if it is our local event. So after that now, we use that as our checklist because we already have the entries which were done way before the event. Yes.
Now, something else that I would like to bring in, and a lot of conversations have come in here, it's about the shoes. So tell us about shoes that would be used for, say, jumps, or those that would be used for a sprinter, or probably for road running. How do you check them?
Okay. Normally, under normal circumstances, at a world level event, there should be a shoe inspection officer. So that will be an added official in the call room. It's not the technical official who will know the very nitty-gritty of what is required in a shoe. It's a shoe inspection officer who will do that. So there are required number of spikes. For example, no one is allowed to have more than 11 spikes in a shoe. Okay. Then the spike also has its length. Yes, 9 millimeters, and then 12 for high jump, and javelin only. Okay. Then we now go to the sole. There are specifications for the sole as well. For example, for road running, it can be anything. Road, that is mountain running, there is no limit. But when we come to road running, it can be 40. When we go to
40, that's about 40
millimeters.
40 mm.
Yes.
4 centimeters.
Yes. Yeah, that's the thickness. When we come to track, I think it's about 25. Yeah. So different events have different sole thicknesses.
Because anytime I take a look at some of the athletes, post race, and you look at the heel, there is almost no heel on that. And something else that now I would like to bring in is what World Athletics is doing about when it comes to the regulations of championships at different levels. Because you've officiated at the Africa Senior Athletics Championships, the under-18s and the under-20s, and also the Kip Keino Classic, which is a one-day event, and also the Commonwealth Games.
Yes.
So regulations at different levels. Let's start with African Athletics Championships at that level. What's required?
I would like to say that actually the rule book is like universal for every event. We try as much as possible to conform to the rule book, because a record, for example, can be broken anywhere. Can be broken at a national championship in Nairobi, can be broken at the African level. So the requirements should be almost the same. That's why the tracks are actually inspected and they are graded, so that in case a record is broken, it can be accepted anywhere. So the standards should be as much as possible the same. When it comes to the nitty-gritty of how you do your culture now, that's where differences come in, and there are allowances. For example, how many people should qualify for maybe a final, what should be the qualifying time. It's now up to you to decide if you don't have a qualification required. For example, if we are going for an African championship, have they given up as a qualification? Then when we are doing our national trials, we'll go by that qualification. So most of the things are conforming to World Athletics, except a few variations that we can be allowed based on our local circumstances.
Because I was looking at what they've released towards December when it comes to standards. Let's talk, for example, about the Kip Keino Classic. What is it that they require of you, and how they want you to run the event as a person who's in charge of the technical officials? Let's start with that.
Okay, Kip Keino Classic, a one-day event. Like I said earlier in my interview, it's a very delicate event, because you don't have time to review and say, did we do that right? Can we improve tomorrow? No, it's just once and it's done. So the standard generally is, these are invited athletes. So we don't have a semi-final. They are all straight finals.
Yes.
Number 2, it's a live event for the most part, except a few events that you can be allowed to have on your own, like we call them the discretionary events. Yeah, so when it comes to that, already they have a set standard which they expect the athletes to conform to, and we must go by that, by what they have set and the purpose of the event. Why are we having this event? What is it leading to? Yeah, so those are the principles that guide us when we are having this one-day event.
Mention one principle that people may not have known, but was, how would I say it, is hidden in plain sight at for example, the Kip Keino Classic. For example, when Faith was running in the 1,500 meters, what's something that's hidden in plain sight that you must ensure happens?
We must make sure they run according to the rules. And then for us as technical officials, by the way, we don't do those administrative things. So we will just make sure they have run according to the rules. When they are finished, we hand them over. Then the administration, like Athletics Kenya, will now decide what next from here. So they'll sit down, agree, and say, then what next? So that one does not come under us as technical officials.
Okay. Now, something else I'd like to bring in is when an athlete has got to make an appeal. What's the procedure that they've got to do within that 30 minutes?
Okay.
After an event?
An event has taken place. First of all, who launches the appeal? The appeal will be launched by either the athlete or their representative, who can be their coach. But this must now be done after the official announcement. The results have been announced. Now you can appeal within 30 minutes. So there will be a form that is filled, and you complain, you say this is what happened, you write your story, and then it is handed over to what we call the jury of appeal. then the jury of appeal will have a sitting immediately. They don't take long, immediately. There is also a fee to be paid. For example, in Kenya, it's $50, 5,000 shillings.
Doesn't come cheap.
No. If you win the case, we refund the money. If you don't win the case, you lose the money.
Okay.
Yes. For World Athletics, it's $100. That's 10,000 shillings. Yeah, 10,000 shillings. So after that, now the sitting is done. The case is determined. All the necessary witnesses are called. Maybe like the umpires, whoever maybe saw the infringement happen. What did you see? Then after that consultation, then the jury will make a decision. Then once they make the decision, it will be final. The decision can either be, let us uphold the decision of the referee, or let us, if it is a field event and maybe a performance was recorded, then that it can be upheld. That's why in field events they say record every performance, especially the disputed ones. For example, an athlete can jump, then the officials say no, there is a foul that has been committed. It is recommended that they record that performance so that in case of a complaint, they can refer back to it. It will not be as expensive as having to do something else to deal with this case, because you only uphold the result. So after that now, the decision of the jury is final and the results are announced, unless there is anything else like doping that comes up later.
I also want to bring in now the issue of television and how it affects that in case something has got to be reviewed. You've got two scenarios. You may have a weekend meeting here in Kenya, nothing on TV, but you may also have an event like the Kano Classic where there is the live, it's a made for television event. How do the two work?
Okay. Supposing I'm the track referee, and we have a video referee. They are hidden somewhere in a room and they see everything. We use the communication gadget. So once 100 meters is done or 400 meters is done, the video referee and the track referee communicate immediately. So first of all, track referee, anything from the umpires? Nothing. So video referee, did you see anything? Yes, there was a problem. Maybe the umpires did not see, so the video referee has reviewed and decided there is a problem here. So those two work together to determine a case. The track referee may not have seen anything on the ground, but the video referee's decision will overrule the track referee's decision because they have seen something more detailed, more clear on the TV or the screen, and that's how we make the decision. So these two must work very closely.
In the case where you don't have TV,
yes,
how does it work?
We rule on the ground. Whatever we have on the ground will be final. Unless the rule says if there is any available video evidence. For example, a coach may have recorded something. We can look at it, but we also have to determine where was he seated. Is it a vantage point where we can now say, yeah, there is a problem here? Or they may have been so far from the finish and then they tell us this person crossed before. You see, like the finish, the determining of the position, you have to be at a particular angle to actually see who crossed the line, and we look at the torso so that we don't look at the hand, we look at the torso. So if this person was not at a good vantage point, they may not see that. So we cannot go by that. We have to go by something that is very clear, well positioned. And also we have to look at, was it done on that day or did it happen another day? Because sometimes you cannot just take any video. Although the rule says any available video evidence.
Now, something I noticed about when that changed even the way athletics events are done, and this was a statement that the Athletics Integrity Unit released just before the Olympics, where they came and where they started raising issues. Everyone knows the AIU as the doping people, but now there's something else. They're looking at the weights of implements. They're looking at, for example, if the setup, for example, of a long jump zone is okay, or the distance of a race walking course. How is this changing the way measurements of courses are done, weights and measures for the shot put, discus, javelin are done? How is it changing this?
When it comes to weight measurement, for example, the rule says that when implements are procured, for example, for a world event like World Under 20, they must be weighed before they are used. Always. And even prior to the event, they must be weighed and certified. Some of them don't meet the standard, and we keep them in the store. We don't take them to the field. An athlete comes with their own implement. It must be weighed the night before the event, not the morning, the night before, and certified or maybe rejected. And if it is rejected, they'll come for it later. If it is accepted, then it is put in the common pool for everyone to use. It's not going to be for them alone.
Aha.
You come with your implement, we share it. You come with your javelin, we share it. It's not going to be yours alone. So if you want to break a record with it, we'll all want to break a record with it. That's implements. Now, when it comes to, what was the other thing?
There's race walking.
Race walking. Course measurement, very critical. It should be verified. Not only the course measurer alone, but there must be verification. Wow. And there are also rules that go with that. They must use a calibrated bicycle to measure very accurately. And there is also a margin error that is allowed, plus or minus. Even for the cross country, there is a margin error that is allowed. So that must be done. And then World Athletics has got certified course measurers. Those who are supposed to do it. Like in Kenya, we have one person.
Who's that?
Ibrahim Hussein. Yes.
Oh, he's in charge of the Regional Development Center.
Yes.
And the man who won the New York Marathon and
Yes.
Honolulu.
Boston Marathon.
And
yes.
Boston, yes.
Yes. He's a certified road course measurer. He's bringing up other people to get to his level, and he's doing a good job. We have other people who he has mentored, but he's now the person who is known here. If we have Stanchart Marathon, he's the point man. So with that now, World Athletics cushions itself so that the quality must be attained. Yeah, that is road course measuring. What was the other?
The other one that we need to take a look at is in the case of field events. Think of the high jump,
yes,
or the triple jump and the long jump.
Already, even for that, there are specifications in the rules on what should be done. Like even the landing mat, there are rules for that. The uprights, there are rules for that. The quality, and also, so even when companies are producing these things, they must be approved by World Athletics. They must be approved.
Very much
So
the same
we-
way we
for
all
us-
know the track is Mondo.
Yes, for us now as technical officials, we are handed over implements that have been approved, and they are in the World Athletics list for that season as approved. Even if somebody is starting their own company, they must be in that list. So we check against that list and say, is this acceptable? Yes. So they are procured accordingly, and then they are used accordingly. So the quality is already determined before the competition, way before. Yes.
We've seen some things happen. Let me just make a reference to 2016 at the Olympic Games when Ezekiel Kemboi, after Mekishi Benabad finished fourth, made an appeal, and it was found that Ezekiel Kemboi had, stepped inside of the track on the grass rather than stay on the track at that point. What are the changes in the regulations at the moment when it comes to that violation?
Yeah, there is a change in the violation on stepping into the line, in that previously, if you stepped once, you are disqualified. But now, there is a leeway. If you step once, it is considered maybe it was accidental, so you will be pardoned. But if in the same race, umpire one at one corner sees you step, they record. Then another umpire sees you step again, mostly at the bends.
Yes.
Because at the straights, nothing much. But at the bend, somebody tends to lean into the inner lane. So that gives you an advantage by shortening the distance. You see, it's very dangerous because if you break a record, now you have taken a little bit of a shortcut.
Yes.
We are in trouble. You must have covered the 400 meters, the 200 meters. So the second offense will lead to a disqualification. Or if they step here and they make a second step, that is a disqualification. So that is a change. 2 steps or 2 instances. Yes.
Now,
and then the other thing in the change is that if somebody is pushed like into the track accidentally, did they continue or did they come back to the track? If they continued in such a way that they improved their position and got an advantage, that will lead to a disqualification. But if you notice that it was just jostling and then he came back to the track, no interference, nothing, no advantage, then it's fine.
Now, the other one that I would like to mention is when it comes to the relays. What are some of the, I think the first one was the exchange zone became open.
Yes.
What are the changes there?
Not really open.
I'm saying the rather than what was it called? The
20 meters.
The acceleration zone
Yes, yes.
now became
part of the
exchange zone.
Yes.
Tell us that change and how it's now affected the way people do relays.
A very good change, especially for a coach, I think, that an advantage, because if the track is 400 meters,
yes,
and 30 meters is the exchange box, you can decide how to position your athletes. The one who can run faster can cover so much distance. So one can cover 75 meters, another one can cover 110 meters, and so on. That's the advantage. On the other hand, it's nowadays very difficult for a team to actually miss or break the rule if they have been well trained, because the leeway, the acceleration is done within the box. You see, previously with the acceleration outside the box, there could easily be an accident where somebody picks the button before they get into the zone.
Yes.
Yes. But now that it is within and they have to wait within, it's much easier if they have been well trained and well coordinated. So I think that's what I can say.
Now, the first major two events that we Kenyans will focus on. On the 22nd, we've got the National Cross-Country Championships, and this is going to be taking place just outside of Eldoret at Kapseret. And it's going to be a build-up to the World Cross-Country Tour Gold meeting, the Agnes Tirop Classic. What are things in cross-country that people should know as they watch that event, so that they can understand that if somebody is disqualified for just a violation here and there, then they know what it is?
Okay. Cross country is not as complicated as track and field. First of all, we use the natural course. It's a natural course. As much as possible, it should be done on a natural course. The main things in cross country is, number one, composition of a team. A team should be 6 people, and then 4 will score. Out of the 6, the 4 top athletes will score. If one of them gets tired out of the 6, you still have your 4. If 2 fall out, you still have your 4. As long as at the end of the day, the 4 will be there, 4 to score per team. Now, one of the confusing things in cross country is how that scoring is done. Because you see, we just go by your position. Your team has number 1, number 5, number 7, number 12. Team 2 has number 2, number 17, number 22. So we add those positions, and the least number is the winning one. It's not the more, because the more, it means your positions what?
Well, you are way behind.
You are way behind. So that is one. Number 2 in cross country is another thing that I normally notice at the finish. At the finish. Maybe this is just for general understanding.
Okay, let me just hold that thought, because we would like to join our colleague who is June Karisa, who is in Mombasa, because the Kenya County Government Workers Union, and we are talking about those who work in Mombasa County, are issuing a statement, and the Kenya County Government Workers Union, they've had their event and they want to raise some matters that they would like addressed by that. And we move over to June Karisa, who is in Mombasa.
Good morning, Daniel Wahome. Today, of course, I'm with the leadership of the Kenya County workers, Kenya County Government workers of Mombasa County, who are going to, they had issued an alert for 18th January, but it appears that they have forfeited that strike, that particular strike. Of course, I'm joined with the SG of the Mombasa branch, who will be telling us why and going forward what they have planned for their members. Karibu sana, we will be speaking in Swahili. Karibu sana, tueleze tu kwenda mbele kunaendaje?
Asante sana. Kwa kweli tulikuwa tumeissue strike notice siku ya Ijumaa kwa sababu ya masaibu ambayo kwamba alikuwa nakuta mfanyikazi wa kaunti ya Mombasa, lakini kutokana na mkutano ambao kwamba umehudhuriwa na karibia watetezi wa vyama wote wakiwemo wahudumu wa afya na sisi ambao ni wa local authorities, governor aliweza kuchukua hakikisho kwamba tumpe kuanzia Jumatatu mpaka kufikia Ijumaa atakuwa mishahara na matibabu amelipwa. Hivi basi kutokana na strike notice ambayo kwamba alikuwa tumeissue kuanzia siku ya Ijumaa, tumepata taarifa hivi asubuhi sasa hivi kwamba mishahara miezi 2 imelipwa na matibabu yamelipwa. Sisi ilikuwa tunasema tunasubiri kufikia Ijumaa, kama bado kuanzia Jumatatu na sisi tuangalie ni njia gani tutakaochukua. Lakini tunashukuru sana His Excellency the Governor wetu wa Mombasa kwa juhudi zake, lakini tunasema kwamba tusisubiri mpaka kuwa na matatizo kuonana na viongozi wako, kuwa na mkutano mara kwa mara ili kuweza kutatua masaibu haya kwa haraka iwezekanavyo, ili kusiweze kutokea matatizo kwa njia yoyote ile. Na hivi pia tunawaambia wananchi na wafanyikazi kwa jumla kwamba tuweni watulivu, kufikia jioni ama late by kesho itakuwa mishahara imeingia katika akaunti zetu na matibabu yamepatikaniwa. Na katika swala la CBA pia tunatarajia kupata barua ipelekwe kwa General Secretary wetu kufikia leo jioni, ambayo County Secretary ametufahamisha kwamba ataweza kutumia barua hiyo.
Pengine mlifikiaje mpaka mkafika swala la nyinyi kuweza issue strike notice ili muweze kugoma? Ni nini kilikuwa ni kiini cha matatizo yenu? Matatizo
yetu ilikuwa ni mishahara miezi miwili na matibabu hakuna. Ndio tukaweza kukaa chini kuangalia ni njia gani, kwa sababu mikutano mingi tumefanya na management ilikuwa haizai matunda. Hivyo basi tukachukua jukumu la kualert members wetu kwamba wakae tayari, lakini pindi tu watakapokuwa tumepata barua kama ile ya kualert, management wakaanza kuwa na wasiwasi, kwa sababu tayari kwa tushamjulisha katibu mkuu wetu wa Nairobi Bwana Robert Duba kwamba issue strike notice kwa sababu ya zile dhulma zinazofanywa wafanyakazi wa Mombasa County. Lakini tunashukuru baada ya kuweza kukaa chini na kujadili masuala haya kwa kina, na gavana wetu wa Mombasa alichukua jukumu, kwa sababu ndio mkutano wa kwanza ameweza kutujenga amani zetu na kutekeleza yale ambayo kwamba anatakiwa kupitia mfanyikazi wa Mombasa.
Hii CBA ambayo mnayosema itatua shida gani, na imechukua miaka mingapi mpaka nyinyi muweze kuafikiana na swala hili?
Kusema kweli, CBA ya mwisho ilikuwa ni 2012 before devolution ambayo ilisainiwa, na ikawa ni jukumu ilivyoingia devolution, ikawa ni jukumu la kila county government recognize ile union ambayo iko 50 plus ambao kwamba ina members wengi waweze kukaa na kujadili masuala ya mishahara mipya. Sisi 2016 tumekuwa na recognition agreement, imesainiwa, imeenda SRC, na tumefuata mikakati yote ile ambayo kwamba yani zile circulars za SRC na County Public Service Board ya Mombasa wameweza kutimiza yale ambayo kwamba walikuwa wamepewa ni masharti na SRC. Ndipo sasa tukaona muda umekuwa ni mfupi ama ni mrefu sana, tukawa ni haki yetu, wafanyikazi wamestagnate, wamefika mahali hawawezi kupata zile nyongeza mishahara. So ni jukumu letu sisi tukae katika meza na waajiri wetu tuweze kutatua swala hili la mishahara, na si mishahara peke yake bali ni sheria ya mfanyikazi kwa jumla.
Thank you so much. That was the SG just trying to brief their members that the strike notice that they had issued for 18th January has been halted following talks with the governor that 2 months salary of course and the NHIF issues will be resolved starting from today. They are hoping that by Friday all their issues will be resolved by the county government of Mombasa. I hand it back to you, Daniel Wahome, in studio.
Thank you very much, June Karisa, out in Mombasa, speaking with the county workers of Mombasa and giving us, telling us that, yeah, they were to go on strike and they have cancelled that strike. So right now, in Mombasa, we've got another event coming up. Let's move over.
Pata mwangaza katika swala la ufanyikazi na katika swala la huduma za afya. Kwa hivyo wananchi wa Mombasa tunawaomba pole, hatuwezi. We have had leaders, we want to advise leaders. Healthcare workers have a calling, but this calling is to serve, not to suffer. We are doing more of suffering than serving, and we cannot.
So we apologize for the loss of sound at that event, but those are that's a Kenya Union of Nurses and County Health Workers, and they want to issue a strike notice. This is about stagnation in their job groups and also statutory reductions not getting to them, and the NHIF contributions for doctors not being addressed. So that's happening at the Coast Provincial General Hospital. We shall be getting back to that story. We get back to a conversation and with the 2021 Confederation of African Athletics Official of the Year, Pauline Murumba, and she was talking about cross country. We've been told about how that scoring is done, and she was telling us about something that's interesting, how the race comes to an end and how can it actually affects or can see an athlete disqualified or their team lose an advantage they had when it comes to scoring. Pauline.
Okay. Thank you. Disqualification again in cross country is a bit rare. It only happens if somebody took a shortcut, maybe because nowadays the loop is 2 kilometers. So for a 10-kilometer race, they go 5 times. And somebody may take a shortcut. That one will lead to disqualification. And we always have umpires on the route to check that everyone is running through the route. Disqualification can also happen if we are having a relay, because we have a zone where they take over the baton. And if they go beyond or they take it before, the same relay rules that would have been on the track will apply, because it must happen within the zone. And we had a case like that on Saturday during the Prisons Championship, where somebody took it just beyond the zone. That's about disqualification in cross country. Nothing much. The other thing may be if they run without a running number, which should not happen, because we also have a call room where they are inspected and they are given all that. But there is another thing. If somebody is paced by a spectator, he should be disqualified. Pacing means somebody is being escorted, and it's very common. Somebody runs with a flag along their fan, they want to. Yes, that is not allowed.
So okay, let me say, you're inside. This is a truck here, yes. And you're inside this place with, say, the police service flag or the KDF flag or the prison's flag. For example, those people who run along with it, how far can they go?
If they run like here to 5 meters, that's okay. I mean, it's like adrenaline is at work. But now somebody is going 50 meters. That one is not allowed. The rules don't allow that.
All right. Yes. Look out for that. The other thing now, as we wind up this interview, and how do you get more athletes? I remember you told me that you've got the one fear that within the athletics family is that there are no young technical officials showing up for training and that. What are the opportunities that are there? How would somebody get invited for training so that that gap is filled?
Okay. Most of us started by volunteering. And I think volunteer is always the starting point in most sports. You go to the field, you volunteer your service. You say, I would like to help in this and this and this. And then you are noticed and you begin to get assignments. Because if we train people in a classroom and take them to the field, sometimes it doesn't work out well. Because applying the theory immediately without prior experience can be detrimental. Because people can make mistakes that it's just like going to driving school without a practical, then you're given a car to drive. That is disaster. So we have to integrate the practical and the theory by at least somebody getting initiated into the process, being socialized into athletics. I think I would like to use that word, being socialized by coming in, maybe doing things that are not very technical, and then we now grow them into the technical things. And we have a few who are coming up, but we still have a long way to go. So the younger generation, they would like the technological aspects of it, which are not very much or very many. So we really need them to come into this. Another thing is that of late I'm seeing Athletics Kenya coming more intentionally to look out for opportunities, especially with devolution. Whereby, like recently, last year, I trained a team of prisons officials. They came up themselves and they said, we don't have officials. Can we be trained? So we offer the services. We go out there, train them, and then they grow into the national level by and large, because they start with their region and they come up. And there are other opportunities that are also coming up. So these ones are initiated by the people, but the federation can also initiate. So both ways it will work, whereby the region initiates, but also the federation can initiate and say, let's now be deliberate and have more training of younger people. Where do we find them? Some of them are former athletes. They make very good officials. They already know the rules. Some of them are fans who come to the field and they get interested. So they can be from all over. Some are teachers in schools. So all these are potential people who, if they show interest, I started as a teacher myself. So if they show interest, they can grow. And we can also be deliberate and meet in the middle.
All right. Pauline Mrumbashi is the 2021 Confederation of African Athletics Official of the Year. Thank you very much, Pauline, for being with us this morning and telling us about athletics and the technical things that people may know. If you watch a race, then you know what's supposed to happen and some of the things that the athletes have to go through. We shall be moving on to another conversation, but before we do that, let us join Anburu, who is out in Mombasa, and the health workers at the Mombasa County government have issued a strike notice, and give us the latest on that.
It is indeed a good morning to you, Wahome, back there at Broadcasting House, and we're coming live to you from the Freedom Tree. It is just right behind the Coast Provincial General Hospital, where the Health Workers Union are having a briefing for the journalists, just to give a strike notice that from today midnight they will be going on strike because the county government of Mombasa has not heeded to their demands. And I'll just be joined by the branch secretary of the Health Workers Union, who's just going to give us a brief of why they're going to be on strike from today midnight. Karibu sana Bwana Franklin. You'll start with your names first and your position, and then you'll tell us why you're issuing this strike notice.
I'm Franklin Makanga, Branch Secretary, Kenya Union of Clinical Officers, and today we are here as the 5 health unions that we came together to form the Health Unions Caucus in Mombasa. We are having the Kenya National Union of Nurses, the Kenya National Union of Pharmaceutical Technologies, the Kenya National Union of Medical Laboratories, and the Kenya Health Professional Society. So we came together to issue a strike notice on 3rd January, which is expiring today. It was a 7-day strike notice. And the issues in that strike notice are: 1, the issue of unpaid salaries, that is November and December salaries, the issue of lack of comprehensive insurance cover, which has not been in place for the last 1 year, and the issue of unremitted statutory deductions. These are issues that we've had them for the last 2 years. We have always been going on strike because of these same issues. Now, for the salaries that have not been paid, we are in full knowledge that the disbursement from the National Treasury was disbursed to the county in November, 700 million. And again, in December, similar amount was disbursed, but salaries were not paid. We are told money went into other activities. So we, as healthcare workers, we went ahead to issue a strike notice because that's what the law allows us to do. And we went ahead to meet the employer and the management, but we were not able to get solutions. So we've consulted our members, and despite the request by the administration that we extend the strike notice, our members have refused because they don't have even facilitation for them to go to work. So we are saying from tonight, midnight, there will be no services in Mombasa hospitals. All the health facilities under the government of Mombasa County, there will be no services. And we are saying this, that we will only come back to work when our salaries have been paid, the 2-month salaries, not 1-month salary, and when the NHIF cover has been actively implemented and people are now able to access the services. So those are our bare minimums. For the other issues, we can sit and discuss, but for now, before we meet, before we have any meaningful discussion, we want to ask the employer and the Mombasa County government to take responsibility and ensure that salaries of our members have been paid and money is in their accounts, so that they can facilitate even their children to go back to school.
So what happens to the Mombasa residents who will be visiting the hospitals, especially now that there are those who have been admitted? What happens to them?
For those who are admitted, from Friday, we've been asking the administration to start discharging those patients. And those who will be seeking the services from our hospitals from today, we wish to advise them to seek alternative places to get services. They can either to go to neighboring counties or to go to the private facilities. Because from tonight, it's so unfortunate, because our desire is to serve the Mombasa residents, but it's so unfortunate that we are exposed to this inhumane treatment of us not getting our salaries, which has now resulted into us disrupting the services. So unfortunate.
You've heard it from the horse's mouth. It is going to be a very sad situation if at all the health workers from Mombasa branch go on strike from today midnight. Back to you in studio, Wahome.
Well, thank you very much, Anne Buru. And she is in Mombasa. And remember, the medical workers at the Mombasa County government issuing a strike notice that if there is no money in their accounts for salaries for the last 2 months, then effective midnight, there will be no services. But we do hope that they've also received their money, just like was earlier mentioned from the Kenya County Government Workers Union that the monies have started coming in, so they've called off the strike. We believe that the same should have reached out to the nurses, the clinical officers, and the doctors, all those 5 unions under the medical fraternity, and the people of Mombasa would enjoy their services. Full report coming in our bulletins as Anboro and June Karisa put together that story for us. That's happening in Mombasa. We continue with our sporting conversations this morning, and next we shall be talking about the major sporting events in the year 2022, and it's across different age groups there, those for the seniors and also for the youth, and in different environments that we can talk about. And to do that, we've got the National Olympic Committee of Kenya Secretary General Francis Mutuku. Francis, good to have you here in studio. And Francis Mutuku had been the acting Secretary General of the National Olympic Committee of Kenya before being elected substantively to that position. And Francis, before I get into the outlook for the new executive committee of the National Olympic Committee of Kenya, something that I picked out from the annual general, the elective AGM that you had, was about the financial cleanup that had to happen over the past 4 years. You could just give us a glimpse of that.
Thank you, and good morning, and good morning to the viewers. Yes, when we were there the previous term of 2017 to 2020, as expected, over very many years, the National Olympic Committee had faced very many challenges. So one of the things which we put in place was a financial management structure. This was to review the revenue streams and, more importantly, the expenditures, and those expenditures put in place, how they are going to be executed. Through that program and through the very good work of our treasurer, Eliud Kariuki, and the chairman of the finance committee, Mr. Widhaka Kioni, we were able to transform the financial aspect, where we have now an operational budget. We have funds which can be able to execute our annual operations plan. And with that, I believe the finance committee was also able to put sufficient funds to be able to sustain the organization. Sustaining means by the time we come to the end of the calendar year and we have other programs in the subsequent years, then the finance committee is able to avail those funds which are available for those particular programs.
Moving from a financial deficit now to a surplus, what's been that transition and some of the controls that have come in place?
The manual which was put in place clearly outlined how the expenditure was to be carried out. The system of how each expenditure would be made, from the user application all the way to the finance committee sitting down and recommending to the executive, and the executive approving the payment. Just that transition of the process has helped to put a lot of check in the system. And then the next thing which was required is that the finance committee expected a lot of reports. Whatever program is carried out, the finance committee would be given. Through those small but very critical steps, then we were able to save a lot of what would have been money slipping through without being accounted for, or not being accounted for in the proper manner. And through all these programs, we've been able to say now more people, especially the International Olympic Committee through its solidarity program, got confidence that we are making reports for all our programs, and they were able now to start releasing more and more funds for our program. That's what is able to make us start this next Olympiad very, very comfortably, that we can run our programs at least for the next 2 to 3 years.
Well, by the way, an Olympiad is a period by the time one Olympic Games ends until the other one, which means until Paris 2024. So we shall be getting back to that conversation, Francis, but right now we take a short commercial break. When we get back, let us talk about the 8-point legacy plan that NOC has for the years 2022 to 2024, and also talk about the sporting events, the Africa Youth Games and the Commonwealth Games that NOC will be overseeing for Team Kenya.
mipaka na nchi kufungwa. Tusirudi kwa biashara na shule kufungwa. Kwa kutoweza kukutana. Kwa kutengana na tuwapendao. Tusirudi nyuma.
Na kuhitaji unikinge, pata chanjo.
Ili tuendelee na maisha vizuri.
Na kuhitaji unikinge, pata chanjo.
Na kuhitaji unikinge,
Pata chanjo.
na kuhitaji unikinge,
Pata chanjo.
na kuhitaji unikinge, pata chanjo.
Ili tuendeleze maisha bora kwa ajili ya wapendao, nchi yetu na usoni wetu. Kwa ajili yetu sisi sote. Pata chanjo. Kaa chonjo. Kuhakikisha nchi yetu na uchumi wetu umestawi katika uwazi. Tusirudi nyuma.
And welcome back to Sports Check on this Monday morning. It is the 10th day of January 2022. It's the first edition of the program this year, and we're having conversations about a busy sporting year. And in studio with us is the Secretary General of the National Olympic Committee of Kenya, Francis Mutuku. And as we get into these, there has been a change at the sign language interpretation box. And right now we've got Lensa Odingo. She's at the bottom right of your screen. We've heard about the changes in fiscal management at the National Olympic Committee of Kenya, and the newly elected board has got an 8-point plan that they would like to see working towards Kenya having a better sporting culture and also enhancing what is known as the Olympic values. And Francis, let me just get to the first one, and you speak about it because when people hear NOC, they see the Olympic Games or the mainly the Olympic Games, is elite athlete development. How do you want to achieve this?
Yes, that's probably the most important, because the National Olympic Committee, and I have to keep repeating, the Commonwealth Games Federation, because of this year, is charged with putting together teams for both the Olympic, both the Summer Olympics, Winter Olympics, and the Youth Olympics. And secondly, the Commonwealth Games. Commonwealth Games also at the top level, and the Commonwealth Youth Games. And therefore, the very best of each of our disciplines, those are the people we call the elite. They might not be under an elite program right now, but our thinking and our program is that we should put all our top athletes in an elite program. Elite program can start from just an attitude, where we say right now we are looking at 2024. Have we started putting the team which will represent us in 2024 as they start a program, or do we need to put a actual physical structure so that these athletes can start being trained? That is first the attitude program. The second one is actual programs, getting our national coaches within each respective federation, start working with these athletes on a long-term project. For Tokyo, we try to have at least a 6 months training program, but now we are saying for Paris 2024, the training should have started immediately after the Olympics. So we are a few months late. However, we can catch up. We can catch up by within January and February, getting all our federation start earmarking who are the teams which are going to represent us in Paris, and we start putting them in programs from now.
Now, I would like to combine some, I think, point number 2, and then combine also together with point number 8. There is the Athletes Welfare Program, and for point number 8, I want to put it as recognition and reward. Tell us about these two.
First, once we sort out the elite aspect of athletes, we know everybody also is participating in sports is an athlete. And what we've learned in the previous 4 years is that there's a lot of education outside the pitch which needs to be promoted. And therefore, we are looking at welfare in terms of first education. We want all our youths to be given opportunities to build their characters, to build their knowledge, to build, to become people who can be presented to different corporates to be employed, or to just be good citizens, so they can set an example, because they are role models of thousands of youngsters across the country. When we look at recognition goes beyond the athletes. We have a lot of people, and I'm glad that one of your guests today was somebody who has been recognized worldwide in terms of what in terms of what she's doing. Those are the steps you want to follow. That there are so many.
Actually, she's going to be looking at your athletes in Birmingham.
Yes, yes, and you see, like she said, she needs to encourage a lot of youngsters. Now, these are some of the people who have quietly, in the back room, done great work for both the Olympic and the Commonwealth movement. And we do not want that good work to go unrecognized. We want every year, after every major championship, to be looking back over the period and seeing who are some of these Kenyans who have really stood out in terms of different areas. And it's not really at the pitch. It's within the pitch, like we did after Tokyo, where we gave the medalist awards. But now, going forward, we'll be going beyond the medals. Who are some of the people? There are coaches who have done great work. There are great administrators. There are great people who have supported us in terms of corporate sponsorship, in terms of education. So the recognition is just to look back and say, we see you, we are happy about you, keep doing the good job.
Now, you mentioned about education. Tell us how you want to put this on education and research. We know a lot, global sport has become, how would I call it? It's now a science. Sport is purely now viewed from not just the artistic and the beauty of it, but from the scientific point of view. What's the approach on this?
Previously, we had what we call the Olympic Academy, which was just charged with running the Olympic education program. We've elevated our education aspect to an institute. We've created the National Olympic Committee Institute. And in February, we'll be announcing who the chairman, who the director, and who the faculty of that particular institute will be. The whole idea is to say that within the sports infrastructure, there are a lot of opportunities for education. One of the things we are saying is that when you meet an average athlete, they tell you that they are striving to get a scholarship to the UK, to Australia, to the US. And we want to change that conversation, where we engage our local universities to be able to ask them, can you avail scholarship for sports people in Kenya? Out of the very many universities in the country, if each of them was to give 20, 25 scholarship athletes, we know that we've taken care of. What will be the impact of this? Apart from educating, we also believe that the Kenya University Sports Association games will now be at a top level because they have gotten a lot of the top athletes. But most importantly, to be able to give our athletes a pathway program from primary, secondary, college, or university, all the way. That is the education we are talking about. The second thing is that there are a lot of Olympic value education which we need to impart. Values of the Olympic is respect, friendship, and excellence. These are values we'd wish to see as many people as possible start living them. We say Olympism is a way of life. So we are saying we want to partnership with the Ministry of Education so that we can be able to see, can we educate people just before all the Kenya primary schools sports games, or before the Kenya secondary schools sports games, to just teach them of these values which all of us as citizens of Kenya will be proud if we see our youngsters living them out.
Now, and I'd like to bring in something else here. I think was it last year, a golf administrator got a scholarship to go study through the sport, on sports management. How then do you get more people to understand the way sport is run nowadays?
A lot of, we planned, and we are very clear in terms of our target, that all the presidents, secretary generals, and treasurers of all our sports federation will go through continuous training of the sports administrators. We are also saying we are going below the top level, because at the top level we are saying anyone serving within the executive committees will be able to give them that opportunities. And for now, some few federations are able to afford to employ some members of the staff. Again, through the NOC Institute, we'll be able to avail education program. And education, we say it's not a one-off. The idea is to make it continuous. Like we all know, We are taught, but you need to keep going for refresher courses now and then. So we are saying to improve, to change our administration of sports, we need to have programs running not only at the national level of our federation, but also at the county, at the sub-county level. We believe within the next 4 years, within this Olympiad, we are able to reach administrators up to the county level, and that will be a transformation. Now, there are some individuals, like the one you mentioned, the one who was serving at the Kenya Golf Union. There are some individuals who have been extremely good, who are very well educated. So if we can be able to get their scholarships or opportunities for further studies, then they'll be able to benefit from those programs.
And we wish him well. He's in South Korea at the moment.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the other one that I would like to bring out, because you've mentioned the top 3 people, the Federation President, Secretary General, Treasurer, or somebody else. In case federations don't have treasurer, somebody else from that executive committee. It's about governance. What are the things that you want to bring out, and from the experiences of trying to turn NOC around?
The first one is we are looking in terms of just the constitution of our membership. We've had 2 elections where there have been issues in regard to the registration of federation, and number 2, the officials of the federation. We want to make that a thing of the past. We've committed to work very closely with the Ministry of Sports through the Registrar of Sports, so that we look at every federation and support them in whatever they need to put in place for registration purposes. We know some of it might not be overnight, it takes time, but we want to be on that road to start having our federations comply to the extent possible with the Sports Act. Number 2 is obviously within the governance structure of our federations. We've already said in terms of the education program, and at a national level of the National Olympic Committee, is frequent consultative forums in which we are able to get feedback from the federation on what challenges or what opportunities they feel we can be able to take advantage of. Once we do that, we believe slowly we'll carry all our members along in terms of the governance. There's a big question which a lot of people have been asking in terms of the gender aspect. Why only few people were elected within the executive. First, it's an education issue. To know that a lot of people make it to the National Olympic Committee executive primarily come from the top level of federations. Within most federations, you'll find that right now there are only 2 presidents, netball and cricket, who are women. All the others are dominated by men. There are very few women within the executive committees of the different federations. We are working right now to revise our constitution so that we allow for co-option of people who are of the minority gender, so that we can have at least a 30%, and then we'll be encouraging our federations to do it. That's a short-term strategy. The long-term is to start giving our women opportunities. There are a lot of women practicing sports. We want to give them opportunities to train them. In the previous Olympiad, we tried to have several women's courses for administrators, but now we are going to increase them so that we can be able to facilitate, to empower, and to give opportunity to as many women as possible to start being actively involved in the administration of sports.
Well, you've brought in that gender pillar that I wanted to bring in, which is number 5. Now, there's one I want to put in, a shift to technical support for affiliates. Explain about this.
All our federations have a lot of challenges. The biggest challenge, beside financial, is equipment. Every federation will give you a story of how they were given equipment by the International Federation, and when it reached Kenya, they could not afford the duty or the clearance cost. So to support our federations in terms of that, first we put an amount available. A federation can be able to draw up to 150,000 of clearing costs. But again, we found that's not sufficient. Sometimes the equipment and what the customs require is much more. So we want to take the route of legislation to be able to appeal to our Ministry of Sports, to appeal to our Parliamentary Committee on Sports, to be able to look into these aspects of equipment, how our federations can be able to get equipment at almost no cost.
Basically, a tax waivers. The Sports Act provides ways for getting tax waivers.
Exactly, because just that one action will transform our sports from one level to another level, because a lot of our sports people do not have the equipment. That is one of the areas we want to ensure there is a lot of support. The second one is obviously a lot of close collaboration with the Ministry of Sports. We believe as an umbrella body, we can play a very critical role of bridging the gap between federations, Ministry of Sports, and other entities which are involved in a day-to-day administration of sports, so that our federations can continually get support.
I want to bring in two, and I want to tie them together. One, Kenya being a host country for events, and also at the same time, there is lands, the eastern end of Nairobi, that are not got, and a center is being put up. Tell us about that, because there is different ways about the Olympics. You can host teams, you can host meetings, or even some minor events.
The thinking around the Olympia Africa Center was one. Currently, the way our infrastructure is in terms of sports is that very few federations are able to run youth development programs, and we say this might be a very good solution to a lot of our federation by having an Olympia Africa Center which constitutes almost 20 different sports disciplines. If we are able to get the very best of the Kenyan youth come to that place to train, they'll be able to get resources which are limited. They'll be able to get resources shared. For example, if you have a multidisciplinary place where a lot of the martial arts can be practiced, it means that with just that one cost of putting that center, then you're able to cater to around 6 different martial arts. But more importantly, beyond the coaches, if you want to have a technical support team, for example, if you want to have a strength and conditioning expert, he'll be able to cater for very many disciplines at the same time at a much lower cost than if each federation was able to do it. But more importantly, we are saying if we are going to transform the performance of Kenya internationally, we have to start at the youth. And our turning point will be Dakar 2026. That's our aim, that we prepare so many youth in so many different sports that from 2026 onwards, we start a generation of youngsters who are very good in all kinds of sports.
Kenya hosting events, what's the whole story here?
We've looked at it. We've looked at the example of our affiliates. Probably, I think one of our top leading affiliates in terms of hosting is Athletics Kenya. We also saw that Athletics Kenya hosted an event very, very successfully, and they have been doing it consistently. Through that, whenever you host an event, you get a lot of financial input. You get a lot of infrastructure development. If you just look at what the transformation at Nyayo and Kasarani, simply because of hosting of the events. So that's one of the objectives. We want different federations to host different events so that the infrastructure can be uplifted.
Now, you mentioned 2026, and we've got the African Youth Games in Egypt. Lesotho and Ethiopia coming in and drawing eventually. Everyone settled about this. Talk to us about the games for the youth. I think the last time was in Algeria, before that was in Botswana. What is NOC doing as you prepare the youngsters for Cairo?
The first one will be to go back to what we had started. We had started the youth camps. You remember we had the first one in Lukenya, where we brought about 20 different disciplines to be trained. Unfortunately, because of the COVID pandemic.
January, February 2019.
Yes, and then the ones we had scheduled them in 2020. Unfortunately, we could not go on with that program. So this year, we're going back to the youth camps. First, to prepare on a short-term basis for the African Youth Games. We are very happy that the African Youth Games are taking place, because we were worried. Because the first one, Lesotho, for different reasons, were not able to do it. Then secondly, Ethiopia, because of the challenges they are having. Again, no one was very comfortable with going to Ethiopia, but we are happy that Egypt has taken up that. That gives us a clear roadmap for us to start developing our youth. Some of these youth will be looking forward to, once they perform very well, we have African Games next year. We have the Paris 2024, but most importantly for the youth is the Dakar 2026. Can we get a team which can start training now, participating with an aim to go for Dakar 2026 and ultimately for Brisbane 2032 Olympic Games? So the youth gives us an opportunity to start looking at our sports in a long-term perspective, which is the attitude change we want to bring in this time round.
The disciplines. Let's off the top. I mean, let's start very simple. I can mention athletics. I know the last time we picked up a medal in golf at the youth games. I think that was Botswana. Which youngsters should we be looking out for?
Because of the last 2 years lack of engagement within the youth, I think now across the world is an open forum. And therefore it means within Kenya it's very open. We've seen some youngsters do very, very well in the individual sports, and we like to believe if they're put in a program and they start preparing now and they're given the sufficient exposure between now and August, we can get very, very good surprises, and that's what we are looking for, because those are the youth who we believe can be able to do well for us, win for us medals. But at that level we are also very strong on exposure, that we want our youth to be exposed. But we are also saying let's not wait until August. One of our wishes, and this goes for both for the youth games and the Commonwealth, we do not want a Kenyan, their first international match is at the Commonwealth. We are hoping that through the support of the Ministry of Sports, we can be able to get some of our sports people get exposure opportunities international between now and then. If they can go to 2 or 3 competitions, or some teams come and compete with them here, that would be good. That way at least they'll have gotten exposure before they go for the top competition.
All right, so we shall know the disciplines in due course.
Yes, we will.
Now, the Commonwealth Games taking place 6 months from now, and we know rugby sevens have qualified, basketball 3x3, they've qualified, the men and the women, and the women's cricket team out to Malaysia for qualification. Tell us where the plans are, the preparations, and some of the announcements that may be made in due course.
Right now, as we speak, we have our cricket team, the women team, leaving today. Part of the team will leave today and the rest will leave tomorrow. Obviously, because of the times we are living in, there are a lot of challenges with travel. We were hoping they would leave much earlier, but because of those challenges, they were not able to, so they're leaving today and tomorrow. We hope they can do well and qualify. The second team, which will be going towards from the 19th, will be our 2 teams of Kenya Hockey, both the women's and the men's team. They'll be going to Ghana for their qualification matches. Those are the immediate teams which we are hoping can be able to. And as you mentioned, we have Kenya Rugby men's and basketball 3x3, both men and women, which have qualified. We are hoping that the women's rugby team can be able to qualify. They were in it in Gold Coast in 2018, and we believe that they'll be able to put a good performance and travel. So there are very many teams which need to go for qualification. There are some who have gotten direct qualification. A lot of the individual sports have gotten direct qualification. The others have to fight their way between now, within the next 6 months. What we are looking forward to, we have an engagement with the Ministry of Sports. We are hoping that the steering committee and the Central Management Committee can be formed between January and February. The National Olympic Committee will be announcing who the chef de mission will be, and the team which will be running probably within the next in less than 14 days. We are hoping that this week we can be able to meet our federations, give them the roadmap. Then they can also give us the feedback of the interactions with the international federations on what program they need to. But most importantly, we are saying the teams must start training right now.
And what's from the Commonwealth Games Federation that's been passed on to NOC as you prepare for the games? Tokyo, there was what was known as the handbook of the games, including one around, the coronavirus protocols. What comes from Birmingham?
Same, it will be the same, which is, I believe a lot of bodies have adopted that, the playbook. I believe right now they are revising their latest playbook to be able to give us, maybe by March. End of this month, there will be the first chef de missions meeting where a lot of the information will come from. But as you mentioned, COVID will be the most important aspect, which means then even our medical teams have to work a lot with the other teams to be able to prepare them. For Birmingham, there will be 3 different venues, major venues, so it means our teams will be split into 3 different areas to compete. It also means as we constitute our management, then that will be part of the areas we'll be looking at. As you all know, the Commonwealth...
the 3 venues just mentioned for our view.
I'll need to check that.
Okay, I know there's the main...
yes, which is Birmingham.
I know where there is the athletics arena.
Yes, at the university. And then we'll have 2 others. The second thing which is important for our viewers to know is that the para sports, will be under our management. So one of the people will be incorporating the team aspects is somebody who is conversant and who can manage our para sports.
From the National Paralympic
from the National Paralympic Committee. We hope that they can be able to get as many para sports people to qualify. But just like at some of the team sports, they have to go for a lot of competitions to be able to qualify for the Commonwealth. None of them has a direct qualification, so all of them have to work through.
All right, so Francis Mutuku, the Secretary General of the National Olympic Committee of Kenya. I know there is something, but at your own request, I won't be touching it. And hold on for it. And this will be coming later in our bulletin, so I'll let that one pass. But overall, for the outlook for 2022, what do you see? What is the communication coming in from the federations, the athletes, and also from within the NOC executive?
One of the things we know that 2022 is a very critical year for the country. However, we would like to keep our sports people to keep within the sports focus so that they can be able to participate. Our federations, we saw a lot of support with our federations. We will continue engaging them continuously because there's a lot of information which comes through us. Our athletes remain the center of all our programs. Every day we wake up to serve the athletes. So athletes should look at, expect from us programs which will not only help them within the pitch, but off the pitch. Our technical officials, our coaches, what we are saying is we want to give them as many opportunities as possible. So if federations decide they are sending any team for a competition, we are hoping that they'll be sending the best coaches. We also want to organize, like we did in the last period, what we had was a sports science symposium for our coaches. We are hoping that we can be able to incorporate this. Actually, from a technical level, we want our technical people to start knowing sports has changed, so we want to change with the times.
Well, and you know, sport has changed with the time. At one point, I know a former international once told me they went for a games, when somebody lost a race, they said, tutakula ugali. I'm sure I'm sure that Jeffrey Kemani would want to know who said that. But thank you very much, Francis. We hope to see the team's qualification and also get updates on what's happening. Remember, from the 18th of January, we're going to be having the women's cricket team playing in Malaysia, and also around the same day, incidentally, the men's and women's hockey teams, just from the 19th.
Correct, yes.
They will be playing in Ghana. So qualification for the Commonwealth Games starts now, and for athletics, you have to wait for the trials. You already have a whole list, but you need to cut down
it's
the
more
numbers.
Of cutting down to fit. There are too many. Yes.
So you've had it from him, and let's see how soon can we get that done. Francis Mutuku, Secretary General of NOC, thank you very much. And you know, I'll be waiting for that little piece of information later today.
And thank you very much. It's always a pleasure sharing our information with our viewers. Thank you.
Welcome. Well, next we shall be talking about football. The Africa Cup of Nations has started. Well, a lot of banter happening out there on the interwebs when it comes to the FKF Premier League. I'll be telling you about something that happened in Mombasa and the responses that came, and also the magic of the FA Cup continues. We'll be back with Gregory Mulemi.
Let's listen to Meru first. Yes. Okay. Cool. Cook. No, I think we have been very clear, and I can repeat. We don't want to tell the state agencies what to do. The state agencies are all anchored in law. They know what to do. If the perpetrators have been arrested, we let the due process take place. What we are most worried about is the ripple effect of utterances, is the ideology of cohesion and violence now going forward. What has happened has happened. And I say this press conference is not about an individual. And we want to remove your minds away from one individual. Kenya is bigger than one individual. It is the ideology that peace, that violence and coercion can be used, and intimidation can be used to gain political mileage. That is what women of Mount Kenya are categorically speaking about, not about individuals. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you. I hope kuna Wameru hapa. Mimi nimetoka Meru. Kuna Weru iko hapa. Kwa hivyo mtawapatia. Mtaongea Kimeru. Wanimbeta wawini Okaburu. Kwetu Maua, Igembe, Meru County.
Well, that is Nyeri Deputy Governor Dr. Carol Karuga, and she was speaking about the comments that were made by Meru Senator, the Honorable Mithika Linturi, on Saturday, and they were deemed inflammatory. The National Cohesion and Integration Commission did raise an issue about that. He was picked up by the police, and the message coming in from the women in politics from Mount Kenya is that they are not in agreement with what Senator Mithika Linturi said. So Mithika Linturi had given an apology to that, says he withdrew it, says he was misunderstood, but at the end of the day, no one seems to have taken the tangent of what his words mean. All that's out there is that everyone's unhappy with them, and we shall be getting that story from Beatrice Gatonye, who's a reporter out there in Nairobi. We continue with our conversation on sport, and it's all about football. I mentioned to you about some very interesting things that happened in Mombasa, and it brought out the wildest of the interwebs when it comes to Kenyan football. You know, Facebook pages, Twitter, you just mentioned it. Everyone was laughing, was trying to figure out what exactly happened. Well, to bring that to light, we've got Gregory Mulemi. Gregory, thank you for gracing us on this opening program of the Sport Check this year. And I want to talk about that match that was played between Bandari FC and Kenya Police. It ended 0-0, and on the interwebs it was said that police were playing a formation that is known as 911.
No, they say the police motto is usalama kwa wote, ulinzi, utumishi kwa wote. And they had also to make sure that they defend themselves, not concede. But then the banter, it's really interesting how it caused a lot of interactions, because prior to that, it's Bandari who started the banter. They had one of their players on the driver's seat of a van saying that they were going to deploy the police officers. But then after the match, the same meme was used against them when the police told them that, okay, we just came we came for 3 containers, got 1, and then we've told you that when you come to Nairobi, you should be coming with 3 containers, and that's an order.
And by containers, they mean points.
They mean points. Such is the beauty of the Football Kenya Premier League. And I've had a benefit of watching a couple of matches right now. I can say more teams are settling. A lot of action, and the results are foreseen. You can see nowadays, you don't see any favorite as it was, let's say, a couple of years ago. Everyone is toe-to-toe. They were saying that fans help some teams. It's not really happening at the moment. Everyone is just picking points anytime.
Well, one team that everyone's got their eyes on is Gor Mahia. And we know that they can't sign players until 2023. But what's happening at the Green Army?
The Green Army is a house of confusion at the moment. We don't know if the coach is back yet. There are a lot of things happening. They beat Mathare 1-0, but you remember they drew 1-1 with Nzoia prior to that, and they had lost previously to Costa Rangers. It's a team that it's a pale shadow of itself a couple of seasons ago, because you look at the quality in the squad. A couple of players also missing out. Jules Olimwengu, apparently it's reported that he's on paternity. Benson Omala choosing to stay away from the team. Ernest Wendo, who was one of the longest serving members in the team, is also not there. Peter Udi also not in the team. So they have to use players who are not really what we know Gor Mahia to be of. Like right now, they have to depend on new signings, the likes of Austin, who have not yet gelled into the team properly. And it's really tough on them. It's tough on them. They beat Mathare. You know, Mathare is really struggling at the moment.
Now, then a team that I would like to speak about, Kakamega Homeboys.
It's all about continuity. Kakamega Homeboys, the last 4 seasons, they've been finishing in the top 3.
Yes.
And that shows you that this is a team that they had a project and it's working for them. You look at the results that they've been having right now, it's not by fluke. Despite losing the likes of Alan Wanga, they have youngsters who came in and they're filled in those boots properly. They've signed the likes of Yema Mwana, who formerly was at Bandari. These are players who've added quality, and they have a very quality coach in Bernard Mwalala. Even despite losing Muyoti, they are picking the results, and it's very, very